how do the FBI go about getting confidential informants? Because I imagine there must be a ton of them in all sorts of different, and I imagine they're very valuable to the FBI.
So I'll actually go back to one thing that one caller said. He said, "How often are there more FBI informants or employees in the room than there are actual bad guys?" And they're actually, we disconnected his call before I had a chance to answer that. There was one time I could think of. I was investigating an outlaw motorcycle gang back in, and yeah, it's a gang, not a club, back in the mid 2000s, 05, 06 time frame. And they had a meeting, and it was very poorly attended by the membership, but all of our snitches were there. And there were like 4 snitches and 3 actual non-snitch members of the motorcycle club there, gang. So that was the one time in my FBI career.
And do you all know each other? Like, do you all know who you are?
No. So not by snitches. I'm not talking about undercovers. I'm talking about guys.
These are gotcha.
I'm talking about guys who were members of the club, who were members of the gang, but for one reason or another, usually because they got jammed up on something else, they were talking to us. But if I wanted to taunt one of these guys from the outlaw motorcycle gang, I'd say, yeah, next time you're when you're little meetings, look to your left and look to your right. Statistically, one of those 2 guys is a snitch.
Right. And I guess they must know that that's just right, that there's always, but there's really, it's probably a hard thing to know who's who, but you always have to assume there's one somewhere, right?
Yeah. Some of them started putting in rules, like before meetings, they'd shake down, especially newer members, they'd make everybody leave phones outside. They'd do body searches and, check for electronic listening devices and all that. But by that point, we had them so concealable that you'd never ever see them, you'd never find them.
But they are actually, so they were, because you see like the 80s, like the wires, and then like it looks like you're wearing like a Walkman, like stuck. I always wondered, because you'd be like these huge clunky things, but you'd have to think now it's like, do you guys
first guy?
Yeah, go ahead.
The first guy I ever sent into a meeting of a sort of a criminal conspiracy. I wired him up with something called a Nagra, and I'm sure that I can talk about it because I'm sure, please God, let these not be in use in the FBI anymore. It was about that big. It was about the size of a large Sony Walkman or PlayStation or something like that, or not the PlayStation, but the handheld one.
Yeah.
And he's like, Jesus Christ, man, really? I got to wear this thing? You're going to get me killed. And they said, well, yeah, and the technicians, the electronics technicians would tell you, yeah, but this thing gives you studio quality sound. I was like, goddamn right. It's a recording studio in this guy's pants.
Yeah.
And if he gets caught with it, he's a dead man. But we actually used to use things like that. Now, you can look all day, you'll never find them.
Right, because they're just like microscopic. Do you guys get like do you have some sort of element with the FBI where they run you down all this like new technology, like all this? I imagine it's mostly surveillance stuff. And like, is it true? Can you guys just like turn people's, can you turn like a phone that's off, like it's like a listening device on? Like, is it?
Yeah, I won't talk about that, but I'll talk about in general. I will talk about in general what it takes, because I think this is another misconception that could probably use straightening out.
Sure.
What it takes to get a warrant to actually tap somebody's phone or to interfere with somebody's phone. It's a tremendous amount of work. The first thing you have to do is you got to write up an affidavit that's probably about 30 pages long, and you got to detail all the criminal activity. You have to detail. And here's the part that a lot of people don't know. One of the things I have to detail before I can crack into your phone is that I have used every other investigative means at my disposal to try to uncover more of your criminal activity, and they've all failed. And I have to detail how they fail. And then if a judge grants me the authority to tap your phone, it's only for a set period of time, usually 30 to 60 days. And at the end of that 60 days, I have to take them a printout of every single call that we've intercepted. I have to talk about when we minimize things. That means at some point during the call, you were talking to your wife about what to get at the grocery store, as opposed to talking to your dealer about how many kilos to deliver to the corner of Walk and Wait, and how much minimizing we did and how much we got. And then we have to re-justify everything to re-up it for. It's a tremendous amount of work, and it's not something that you can just snap your fingers and be in somebody's phone. That's Hollywood.